Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Rebecca Penna. I'm going to be presenting today on parenting and how to keep your cool while parenting during the age of COVID. I'm going to give everybody another minute or so in case other folks are logging on. So just hang tight and we'll get started in just a minute. We'll just wait one more minute, make sure everybody gets a chance to log in, and then we'll get started with today's talk. All right, so why don't we get started? Again, my name is Dr. Rebecca Penna. I am a pediatric neuropsychologist with Baptist Behavioral Health, and I'm very happy to be invited to talk to you all today about a topic that's near and dear to my heart. I am a parent of two young children myself, so this topic is relevant for me very much so. Today I'm going to be talking about parenting while quarantined. So this is a very unprecedented time for us as a society and in the context of today's talk as parents. So we're going to talk today about some of the unique stressors that we are facing. And then we're going to talk about some strategies to help, how to keep your cool and survive, if not thrive, during this unprecedented time. All right, so let's first kind of talk a little bit about what some of the stressors are that we are experiencing as parents during COVID. First of all, we have to take into consideration that we're against this backdrop of this national pandemic that is causing tremendous stress for everybody. In this time, it is quite expected to be experiencing stress just because it's very, very challenging dealing with all of these stressors related to COVID, some of which can potentially be traumatic. So health fears, potentially a loss of a loved one, dealing with financial or job instability. I mean, these are really big deal issues. Then on top of that, many of us are experiencing really big changes from our normal lives, right? Some of us are now working from home or have reduced or changed work schedules. Our kids are home and they are having to navigate where we are having to navigate as a family, homeschooling, virtual schooling. So it really is some uncharted territory that we're dealing with. And all of these changes cause a lot of instability and destabilization in our lives. So again, that just kind of adds some additional fuel to the fire. And then we have what I like to call the cabin fever effect. So we're kind of all on top of each other all the time. Um, you know, feeling kind of stir crazy um, is challenging. It puts a lot of strain on our relationships. So strains in our marriage or in our relationship with our partners and in our relationship with our kids. So, really in essence, it boils down to we're just trying to get by day to day in a pressure cooker environment. And it's something that is not easy to do. Um, I will say I don't have all the answers. I'm certainly, trying my very best as a parent and working professional to figure it out for what works for my family as well. But my hope is today that we can offer a little bit of insight into some strategies and ideas that can help make things a little bit easier. All right, so one of the things that we want to be thinking about is what are the effects of parenting stress, which are, present in our daily lives to some degree or another, but are amplified right now given the COVID situation and being quarantined. Parenting stress can look like feeling very on edge, having a lot of anxiety about things. It can look like depression, sadness, feeling like a little bit numb or like you really aren't experiencing pleasure from things that you used to enjoy. Irritability, getting very easily frustrated, particularly with our children or with our significant others. Becoming withdrawn, not being able to focus, feeling like you can't get anything done. Or the converse of that is you might become hyper-focused and feel like you have to constantly be doing something, or else, if you slow down, you might feel overwhelmed by your thoughts and emotions. So these are just some examples. There's a whole host of other kind of anxiety-related, stress-related issues that are coming up during COVID. And I'm going to cover more about that next week. I'm going to be giving a talk on Wednesday on the 6th about anxiety during the time of COVID and some strategies to help with that more specifically. So tune in for that. Okay, so jumping in, how do we deal with parenting stress? Again, in this kind of, really new, unprecedented time, how do we navigate these uncharted territories as parents? And there's a couple of key points that I want to bring to your attention and that I hope you will remember from this talk. The first of these is your feelings are completely normal. Right now, it's okay if you have a moment where you lose your cool. It would be unrealistic to expect otherwise. Again, given that we're in this pressure cooker environment, it's not easy, and we have to acknowledge that and kind of expect that it's not always going to be easy. The second point is that you're not alone. So as you can see today, I'm here talking with you all, and I hope that by having this talk, it reaches folks in a way where you can understand that you're not alone. I mean, this is really challenging for a lot of parents, for most, if not all, parents right now. So, recognize that this experience, while abnormal from our typical lives, the stress and the challenges that we're experiencing, we are sharing those experiences. So reach out, connect with your family and friends. If you have some moms or dads or fellow parents that you feel like you can talk to about what you're dealing with, go for it. It can really help to feel kind of connected and validated that you're not the only one. Excuse me. The next point is to keep things in perspective. And this can be hard, obviously, when you are, in the middle of feeling really stressed out about things. But, this too shall pass. And we don't know exactly when, and there's a lot of kind of unknowns that are going on. But try to keep in your mind, there will be, at some point, we're going to get back to some semblance of normalcy. It may look different, but this isn't going to last forever. And then the next point is to be kind to yourself. This is really a time where you need to try to find some part of yourself that you can connect with to help keep yourself feeling stable and centered. So think about what are the things that help you get through the day, and really just use those strategies, use those things, whatever it is. If it's taking a bubble bath every night, if it's having a regular Zoom chat with some of your friends, make sure that you're kind of thinking about what are the things that help you get through the day. And rely upon those. All right, so now we're going to move into a little bit more about some specific strategies, things that can help as you're dealing with some of the challenges of parenting while being quarantined. All right, and you'll notice that there'll probably be some themes that will kind of emerge out of this material. But that's good. That helps us understand what are like the really important pieces to this information. So number one, keep expectations for yourself and your family realistic. So, don't expect perfection from yourself or from your family. We can't do it all. And that's an important lesson to carry with us all the time. I know especially a lot of working parents, working moms, we feel incumbent that we are, really focused on our career and also really focused on being, great parents. And that usually leaves very little time for ourselves or for other things. But these times right now are particularly challenging, and it remains particularly important that we kind of have realistic expectations. So, give yourself permission to not be the perfect parent right now. I had a friend who was recently telling me, she was feeling really guilty because her young child was spending a lot of time watching, YouTube Kids and Cocomelon and other things to kind of keep her distracted so that my friend could get her work done. And I get that, as a parent, most of the time we're very careful about, monitoring screen time for our children. But right now, you really need to just kind of give yourself permission that things are not going to go exactly the same as they do during, our regular lives. A little bit of extra screen time than normal is not going to be the end of the world. The next point is to try to enjoy your time together. And again, I know this can be hard when we're, facing a lot of stress and just feeling kind of like at our wits' end some days. But, try to see the positive. This can be an opportunity for us to really try to enjoy some quality time with our families that we wouldn't otherwise have. So try to see that. Try to have fun when you can. The next point is the importance of self-care. And again, this is something I'm going to talk about more next week during the discussion on anxiety and how to address anxiety during COVID. But it's equally, relevant to this topic. So, in order to be the best parent you can be for your kids, you have to take care of yourself. And, again, as parents, I think we often tend to want to sacrifice a lot for our children, but you really do need to make sure that you have filled up your own bucket, so to speak, so that you're feeling rejuvenated, calm, and capable and present to be with your family. So things like, maintain your regular healthy habits of eating well, getting enough sleep, exercising, all of that good stuff. And, being mindful about stress reduction techniques as needed, right? So yoga, mindfulness, taking some deep breaths, going for a walk just to clear your head. These are all things that can help make you feel more calm and present when you are with your family. Okay, so the next one that I want to talk about is routines. Routines are hugely important. And it's, definitely in our day-to-day lives, routines are extremely important. But even more so now, given that there's a lot of unstructured time and it's a little bit chaotic trying to figure out kind of how to navigate through this time period. By imposing some structure, by creating routines, is really, really helpful. So routines, predictability, promotes a sense of stability for us, and particularly for kids. It really is a way to feel grounded. It's a way to feel much more in control. And one of the big problems that we have with a situation like COVID and other stressors or even trauma situations is that we don't feel in control, and that's a very scary feeling. It is even more so for children who already have little control over a lot of what's going on in their lives. So routines are great. You can just try to maintain those routines that you already have for your household. Keeping the same bedtime, keeping your children accountable for the same chores that they would typically do. Having regular meal times, sitting together as a family for dinner. Those are all really great practices that you can just continue during this time period. For our school-age kids, you can try to replicate their school routine to some extent. And obviously, you're not going to be able to do that, really from home. But, kids who go to school are used to there being kind of blocks or periods throughout the day where different activities happen. So setting up that expectation in your household can help them again kind of feel, oh, this is familiar to me. I know we do this kind of a flow to our day at school as well. One of the things I like to use a lot is visual schedules. So that's really just a posted list of what's going to happen kind of in the order it's going to happen. We have one up on my refrigerator, and it's pretty simple. Just kind of lists, wake up time, get ready for your day, playtime, school time, etc. And it kind of goes through it like that. For younger children who don't know how to read yet, you can use pictures. There's a lot of really cool picture schedules that you can find online. If you go on Pinterest, if you go on Google Images and you put in visual schedules or, visual daily schedule, you will get overwhelmed by how many options there are out there. But it does give you some good ideas for how you can really, really provide that structure to how your day is going to go. Again, this gives kids a sense of predictability, routine. They're not hopefully going to whine or complain as much about, no, I want to watch another show, or I don't want to do my schoolwork. Well, this is the routine. Before we do anything else, this is what has to happen. As part of routines, I think it's really important to balance structured and unstructured times, particularly for younger children. So, that in order to be able to focus maximally for something like schoolwork or other things that really, kind of require a lot of attention and focus, you need to have some breaks built in there. So we try to kind of alternate in our household, and I think that that's helpful to have, a period of time for schoolwork and then a period of time for, outside play, etc. And you kind of make sure you have that balance. And I do think it's important to have outdoor time, particularly for young children, built into their daily routine. The next point I want to talk about is behavior management. I'm not going to get too far into this because we could go down a rabbit hole, but essentially, I think the biggest thing that I want to communicate about behavior management is that during stressful times, you can sort of expect children to show their emotions through their behavior, right? Before children are very good at being able to express their emotions verbally, they will show you to varying degrees, right? It could be your teenager slamming the door, or it could be your 2-year-old having a tantrum. So before reacting to what the behavior is that you're seeing from your kids, you want to think about what might be underlying it. And particularly right now, you want to be thinking about how you can help address some of those underlying feelings of sadness or fear that might be causing your child to act out, right? Going back to some basic kind of behavior management 101 strategies, you want to have some basic household rules. You want to set limits, and you want to follow through with consequences. These are very important, again, ways to help establish structure and to let your kids feel kind of secure in knowing what to expect. And as far as motivating your child, you really want to motivate the good behavior that you want to see. First, then is a great strategy. So first schoolwork, then screen time. And sometimes we can use things like star charts or a way to earn towards a privilege if needed. For older kids and for teenagers, they're really going through a very, I think, specifically challenging time because they're missing out on a lot. We all are. But, adolescence is a time of identity formation. It's a time when teenagers rely on their friends and their social networks as a way to kind of figure out who they are. And so it's not being able to socialize the way they typically do is really really a loss for teenagers. And so we kind of need to understand that they're in a sense grieving some of that, and they may be seeking out more social media as a result. You also want to think about, some of these kids are really They're missing out on these really important rites of passage like graduation and prom and all of these things that they've been looking forward to. And, you know, in essence, what you want to do is you want to just empathize with your child. You know, it's really not fair. It is really, really unfair that this is how things have shaken out. Just just feeling heard and acknowledged that their feelings are validated can go a long way. You do want to respect teenagers' need for privacy and independence, and you also want to be open and honest with them about kind of what's going on, right? And kind of giving them the opportunity to process this information about COVID, about all of these changes, and be available to have talks with them so that they know you're there, that you will support them, and that you're ready to listen. All right, so getting into some of the issues related to school, homeschooling from home. I mean, what if you're a working parent? It is a challenge. So some brief thoughts about that. One is keep the big picture in mind. So for any of you who've tried to navigate these virtual school programs, they can be complicated for the kids and for the parents. So it can cause a lot of frustration. Take a step back and just remember a couple of important kind of big picture things. One is that learning does not mean following a specific curriculum or program. So if you're losing your mind and it's this, you know, virtual schooling program is really frustrating for you, just remember that kids can learn without necessarily attending the virtual school program. I'm not saying don't send them to that, but, you know, all of the activities of their day, play is learning for kids. Read with them as much as possible. And for older kids, you know, give them the opportunity to practice these skills, like money management when you go to the grocery store, right? And price comparison and so forth. Remember that, you know, a disruption to a few months of your child's schooling, for the most part, in most cases, is not going to be a problem. Kids are resilient. They're not going to regress so far that they're not going to catch back up, you know, once they get back in school. It's a different story if you're dealing with students with special needs who are at a greater risk for some regression, but that's a whole other topic. So again, just do the best you can to try to keep your child engaged in activities that stimulate their thinking and their cognitive development. So how do we exactly work from home while also caring for our children, while also doing homeschooling? Again, like I said, if I had all the answers, man, I wish that I did. But here are some tips, things that you might find helpful. So you want to try to create a specific workspace for yourself and for your child, and they should be separate. Preferably both should be in quiet, distraction-free locations. That's not always possible, but we try to do the best we can. I, for example, have turned a walk-in closet into my office space, which is where I'm presenting to you from right now. It's not ideal, but it gets the job done. You want to try to, again, for the most part, stick to a schedule for yourself as far as when you're going to try to get work done during the day. And I say try to get work done because, again, we want to keep in mind expectations for productivity. You know, you want to communicate well in advance with your superior, with your boss, about what's feasible, given that you're going to have these competing demands. But one thing you can do is, you know, try to coordinate around your child's schedule. So, for example, you can save those activities that really require mental focus and freedom from distraction for times when your child will be preoccupied. That might be a great time to save screen time, right? So screen time while mommy has a meeting or whatever. The other thing that is helpful is to save, again, those times for when you need to have real focus and freedom from distraction for the bookends of the day. So either, first thing in the morning or in the evening, ideally, when your children should be asleep. I find that to be, a helpful strategy myself. It does require you to kind of shift around your own schedule a little bit, but it's one way to kind of get in that time to get some work done. You do want to try to communicate with your family when you need to have specific times set aside that are quiet. Some parents have really creative solutions for this, like putting signs outside their door that say, do not enter unless it's an emergency or something to that nature. And you want to make sure that you discuss in advance with your children what is an emergency. So the kitchen's on fire, yes, that's an emergency. Your brother not sharing his toy with you, it's not an emergency. It can wait until I'm done with what I need to do. One of the other big issues that I think is important to consider when you're working from home and also caring for children at home simultaneously is to try to set boundaries. And this gets back to the idea of work-life balance in general, which is hard, is definitely something that many of us strive for, but can be a challenge. But blurring those lines between work and being home with your children can really make you feel like you're pulled in a lot of directions at once. And when that happens, you're not really ever fully present and therefore most effective with either one, right? We know that in general, the human brain is not very good at multitasking, yet we try to do it all the time anyways. So, try to be present when you're present with your kids. Try to leave work aside, put your phone away or on silent or what have you, so that you can actually engage with your children in a way that will be pleasing for you and for your kids, and you'll feel fulfilled by that. And then you at the end of the day, when it's time to kind of stop checking texts and emails, try to do that, which I know is hard. Easier said than done. Lean on your partner when you can to balance some of these responsibilities. And my husband and I are constantly comparing calendars. Okay, you're free at this time, I need to do this at this time, and that way we can kind of help each other out as far as balancing those responsibilities. With virtual schooling, again, this is uncharted territory for many of us. You want to try to be available, if you've got a school-age child who needs help logging into the system in the morning, you want to try to make yourself available to help them with that piece. If you've got older kids, you can use things like little reminders that go off on their phone, or Google Alerts, Alexa. You can set those in advance to help set a little alarm or notification saying like, oh, it's time to get started on your math or what have you. So those can be some helpful uses of technology. Have a system for monitoring their schoolwork, a to-do list. I love a good to-do list. Have them email you when they complete an assignment. And again, have realistic expectations. So mistakes, kids get off task, and we want to be careful not to be expecting them to be focused completely, 100% of the time, when that's probably, not realistic. So one of the things that I like to end with, and oh, I see somebody has posted Great. Some pointers about things, notes to remember. Excellent. Yeah, these are I think the key, some of the key points to remember as I close with the presentation today. Remember, your feelings during this time of frustration are normal, and it's okay. It's okay. You may, feel guilty about it, but just know you're not alone, okay? Reach out to others who are experiencing some of these same stressors just to vent if you need to. Keep things in perspective, and also, be kind to yourself, right? So this is hard. This is hard for all of us. So I'm going to end with sharing a quote by one of my favorite figures in child development, Mr. Rogers. You may not be able to see this very clearly, but he says, "When I was a boy and I would see scary things in the news, my mother would say to me, 'Look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping.'" And I just love this quote because it just brings a sense of positivity. It brings a sense of hope. And it also reminds us that, as parents, we can help normalize things for our kids. They look to us, to know how to deal. So if we can be calm about it, if we can give them a positive reframe, such as the one that Mr. Rogers offers, then they're going to be able to use that as a coping strategy as well. So I'm going to end today by just saying thank you all for attending and for listening. If you are interested in resources related to what I spoke about today, I do believe we have those available through First Coast YMCA. And if you are, I should end with, if you are feeling in need of further support in dealing with stress, parenting or otherwise, please do visit Baptist Behavioral Health website. We've got tons of resources, and there are folks who are available to help as we all try to get through this together. Unless there's any other questions or comments, I want to say thank you all for attending, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.